Hey everyone, it's Lexi. In today's video I'm going to share with you all the books that have made me cry. So I don't know about you, but I am an avid book crier. I don't know, I get deeply invested in these books and the characters and just the storylines itself, so even just like the littlest thing can make me, like, pull me over the edge. So this list is pretty big, but so let's get started. So the first book I'm sure many can abide by, and that's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling. I don't like the characters' deaths, like the characters who die, like the death scenes, like did not make me cry, but it was just the ending, like especially the part where it's just like it just, you come to the point where you get to the end of the book and you're like, it's all done, like it's done, it's all over. Especially when I watched the movie at the end, where Harry, Ron, and Hermione are just standing on the bridge and they're just kind of looking like back at Hogwarts, and it's just like, oh, I always get a little choked up there. But I think this is a book that I definitely cried. I didn't cry in the deaths, but I cry with just kind of realizing that it's done, like it's no more. So the next book that I have is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I don't know, I had, like, this book, I kind of was spoiled with the ending, like how it is, and even knowing that this character was gonna die, like, I wasn't sad about that. The part that actually, like, even when I watch the movie, the part that makes me cry every time are the eulogies. I don't, like, I'm fine with this character dying. It's kind of obvious that he is gonna die, but it's the eulogies that get to me. I don't know, every time, no matter how many times I watch it, I will, or watch it or just read it, I will bawl my eyes out. I don't know about you, but that's what gets me the most, is the eulogies. So the next book I have is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak, and I think the reason why I cried so much in this is because I did not see the ending. Like, the ending just threw me off course. I felt betrayed. I was so upset, and I was like, I wanted the best for these characters. I felt like they needed something better, like they deserved more, especially Liesel, and just like the whole thing, it just gets me. It was just like, oh, even the movie as well. Especially because Liesel, I think she deserved more. I think she needed that family unit, and then which she ends up getting with the family that she's placed with, and I felt like the characters deserved more, but I can see how, like, why the author did what he did. So, but I still, it's very upsetting even thinking. So the next book I have is Lucky by Alice Sebold, who is the author of The Lovely Bones, and this, I think what makes this book very upsetting is that it's a memoir of her experience as a university student being raped, and it's just very sad to see how you see how, like, the one part of the book says, like, that this was her before picture and her after picture from the rape, and it's just very heartbreaking to see just kind of how she starts out as, like, this normal university student, and how this, like, horrible incident kind of threw her whole life off course. And you can kind of see how that kind of parallels with The Lovely Bones and just the aspect, like the whole storyline itself. But I think it's just, what makes this upsetting is that it's a memoir, and you feel the emotions. You know this is something that happened, and because of that, it just makes it a whole lot worse. And it's sad because this is a problem that we do have within our society. So the next book I have is Still Alice by Lisa Genova, and this book is about Alice, who is a Harvard professor who ends up getting early onset Alzheimer's. And what makes this book so heartbreaking is that it is written from Alice's perspective, so you can see her, like, you can kind of hear the narrative of her forgetting things, and it's just sad to see because she did have, like, such a brilliant, smart mind, to kind of just lose that all. And I think, like, especially because I do have people in my family that have dementia, so this especially got to me as well. And it's just a horrible, sad story, but I think, yeah, so it gets very upsetting at times, but I think the author does a good job of presenting kind of this disease in a good manner as well. So the next book that I have is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and this is a book that I've read earlier this year, and it's about Lou, who ends up working as a caregiver for Will, who was this daredevil, high business guy who got hit by a car, and now he is bound to a wheelchair. And a great deal of this book discusses how Will has made a deal with his parents that he no longer wants to live, and he has given them 6 months, and if he decides, if he doesn't change his mind, he will do a doctor-assisted suicide. So Lou finds out about this, and she makes it like her mission to change his mind and make him realize that his life is worth living. And just this book, like I don't want to give any spoilers, but the last 20 pages are just, like, I was so upset reading this. Thank goodness I was not at school when I finished this, because I would have been a mess. It's it does have a deeper meaning to it than just that, so I highly recommend this book, but it will leave you wounded. So the next book that I have is Firefly Lane by Kristin, and this is a contemporary novel that follows two girls when they first meet and their friendship over the course of 30 years. And I don't, like, the book, I was like, oh, this is a happy book, but then you get to like the last 100 pages and it's just like, I don't want to give any spoilers, but it made me cry. Even like there's like a sequel to this as well, and then that made me cry as well. But I think this is a book that every girl should read, just because of having like that, it's about a strong female friendship, and I think this is something that everyone should read. And it does deal with it does deal with issues that many families may face, and I think that's what makes it extra heartbreaking, because you know that some people have actually gone through this. So the next book that I have is The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman, and this is a book about a couple who are like a lighthouse keeper on this island, and they keep trying to have babies, but every time the baby has come out stillborn. So one day this boat washes upon their shore, and there is a man and a baby in there, and the man has died but the baby is still alive. So they tell everyone that this baby is theirs and they take it up as theirs, but then they find out that the mother of this child is still alive. So it kind of talks about like the morals about then the ethics behind, like, should we keep this baby or like for ourselves, or should we have give the child back? And like, I don't know, this book makes you, like, you feel it when you read this, just kind of like the dilemma, and you can kind of see both perspectives of like this argument, and just the ending, it was very, very upsetting. I cried in it, but I think despite that, this is a book that I think everyone needs to read. So the next book that I have is The Help by Kathryn Stocket, and I'm sure many of you are already familiar with this book, but it deals with kind of the civil rights movement in 1960 in Mississippi, and just kind of that perspective there. And it's just, especially, I know even when I watched the movie, like the end scene just makes me cry all the time, like every time I watch it, but this book is like, it's sad because these events did take place, like the prejudice and like the racism that took place and how these people were treated is true, and this book does a good job at showing that perspective. And it's how, especially with Aibileen, just kind of like the treatment that she has, the ending just always gets me every time. So the next book that I have is The Nightingale by Kristin. Many of you have probably heard about this a lot on my channel, but it follows two sisters who live in Nazi-occupied France during World War II, and one of them is a spy that helps smuggle out Allied fighter pilots back into Spain, and the other one is a mother who has to open her doors to Nazi officials. And just like I don't know, like this book just really got to me. It spoke to me on many levels, and I think just because how she, like, especially the author does a good job at making these characters human, and you definitely see, like, you feel for them, and it, like, especially because this is World War II, like, it's just horrible. I cried multiple times throughout this book. I think even though, like, it is very upsetting, it's something that everyone, I think, needs to read, and if you haven't already, I highly recommend that you pick this one up as well. So the next book that I have is Emily and Einstein by Linda Francis Lee, and this book is about a couple, and the husband is wanting to leave his wife, and as he is going into the restaurant to tell her that he's going to be leaving her, he ends up getting hit by a car, and along with getting hit by the car also ends up hitting a dog as well, so the man comes back as the dog, and just kind of, he has to redeem himself and make sure that his wife is okay, and it's kind of like make up for all the bad things that he has done to his wife. So like you kind of just like the character development that the husband has throughout this book is just, it's just it's heartbreaking in a good way, because he does grow, he kind of sees like a better perspective, and because of that I think that's why this book just made me cry, especially the ending. It's always the endings that get you, but yeah, this is definitely one that was a tearjerker as well. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed me ranting about my feelings in these books. So let me know in the comments below what books have made you cry and which ones you think I should check out. And that's it. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.